Hello, it's Katie at the Fabric Squirrel. I have come to give you an update on my New Year's sewing goals because shortly after I posted that video, I got an email from the Craft Cotton Company. So I work quite a lot with the Craft Cotton Company and have done for years on their blog and creating samples and things for their show. And every February in the UK at the NEC is the CHSI show, which is a trade show for the craft and textile industry. And I always go every year, and they've asked if I can create some things for their stand. Obviously, I was delighted. I said yes, and they sent me the pictures of the fabric. So I have picked the fabric, but basically just from the computer. But I thought I would open it with you because it has just arrived. Okay, so here it is. It is a cotton viscose blend, so a 50-50 blend of viscose and cotton. So it's got the same sort of weight as cotton, but it's just that little bit more floaty and a little bit softer. It's really beautiful. The fabric is a William Morris print. You might recognise it. It's called Compton, and I've got about 180 centimetres, I think, so just under 2 metres. These also came in the same parcel. They are not going to be what I'm making in this video today, but I do have plans for them and I can't wait to sew with these two. But here's just a quick sneak peek at these three. They're called Crafts of Tranquility and they're the same blend of cotton and viscose. So keep your eyes peeled for another make in these three. Now these have just come out of the wash and I've line dried them. I've washed them at 40 degrees. I thought before I iron them, I will show you how they've come out after being washed, because I think this is always a really good test of the fabric and how much you're going to like the garment in the end, because I don't know about you, I hate ironing. I will iron, the ironing board is always up in my sewing room and I will iron as I go through a sewing project, but once it is a dress or a garment, the less likely it is to ever get ironed. If it's like just a bit of a hem, I'll sometimes just run my straighteners over it or something. So I thought this would be a really good way of showing you the fabric because it is washed really nicely. I haven't finished the edges. There was a tiny bit of fraying, but that is to be expected. And I think you could get away without ironing this. I think that's the key point. I obviously will before I cut the pattern. But yeah, I'm really pleased with these. I haven't measured them yet because I feel like I need to press them first. And that one's a little bit more. But I think if you were to hang up a dress, it's much less likely to crease. Anyway, I think I'm going to sew this one up first. I'm going to iron it and I will let you know how the measurements were as well after they've been washed. Okay, so the fabric has been washed and it has been ironed. I've measured it again. It was 170 centimetres. I think when I measured it before the wash, it was 177. So it's just under 10% shrinkage, which is to be expected. But another good reminder of why you pre-wash your fabric when you are dressmaking, because that 7 centimetres could mean a lot when it comes to putting it over your hips or over your boobs. So yeah, always pre-wash your dressmaking fabric. I personally, might be an unpopular opinion, I don't pre-wash quilt and cotton if I'm just using it in quilts or crafts. Not always anyway, occasionally I will. Because in a finished quilt, I quite like the wrinkly look that it gives. But I just thought I'd put that out there. I am going to do the Ethel blouse from Tiana's Closet. I think I said I was doing the Nephilim blouse, but I think I'm going to do this one. So I have the pattern printed and cut and ready to go. I just use paper tape to tape my pieces together. In fact, that reminds me because I ran out of paper tape when I was doing this. And I have some more now. So I need to just secure that one a bit better. I am going to take this to the kitchen now because the kitchen is the biggest space that I have and the floor is heated and it is freezing like 4 degrees outside at the moment. So it is my favourite place to be, is on the kitchen floor anyway. So it's a great place to cut my patterns out. This was my first layout. I got as far as cutting one bit out and then I changed my mind and I did actually shift over where that fold is a bit more. As you can see, I've left an extra space here for the sleeve. I did do another video of how I ended up laying it out, but I have no idea what happened to the quality. So this is a very quick video to show you how I ended up doing it. So I cut that bit out at the bottom, and then as you can see, I shifted that fold over. So I've got a bit more, well, a bit less wasted space. All the pattern pieces are cut out. I'm just adding the notches now. I'm interested, do you use your fabric scissors to do this? Because if you're doing a pattern for the first time, you're cutting through the paper, you're cutting through the fabric at the same time. It always feels illegal, and I do feel like I'm going to treat myself to a new pair of scissors so that I can dedicate an old pair to just this process. The facing around the neckline needed interfacing just to give it a little bit more structure. I just use a regular medium weight interfacing to do this, so it's fusible on one side. Just use a medium to low heat on the reverse, and it sticks really nicely. It's no particular brand. I've tried all the different ones, and I honestly think this is a great quality. I use it when I make my keepsake quilts as well, and it always fares me well. I always do that little test first. I don't know why, but if I go straight in with the iron, sometimes it can crumple up. But yeah, as you can see, it's stuck really nicely. Okay, so I have cut the pattern pieces and I have ironed on the interfacing to the neckline pieces. Now, something that I never usually do is read the instructions all the way through. Especially if it's a pattern that looks quite simple to go together. I normally just get on with it. But for the purpose of this video, I am going to read through the instructions and just make sure that it's the way that I would do it and I'm not missing anything. So I'll go through it with you. So it says to serge or zigzag stitch the edges of the fabric like once you've cut the pattern pieces. That is not something I'm going to do. I'm quite confident after seeing how this pre-washed that it's not going to fall together, like fall apart while I'm sewing. So I will just do that as I go along. Apply the fusible interfacing to the neck facing pieces, which I have already done. Sew the bodice. So place the front bodice and back bodice right sides together, matching the shoulder and the side seams. Stitch the shoulder and side seams, press the seam allowance to the sides. Okay, so something that I always do is I will always pin everything and sew everything in batches. So I won't just do that and then go to the next step. I will sew those together. Well, I'll pin those together, but I'm going to look and see if there's anything else that I can sew together at the same time. So it says sew the ruffle and the peplum. So place the two ruffle pieces right sides together, matching the short edges, and sew to get a loop. Two ruffle pieces. Right, I'm going to refer back to my pattern. Hang on a second. Okay, so I've already made my first mistake and I only cut one ruffle piece because I assumed that it was just the one, but it's not. So I think I have enough to go and get another piece out of that, but I'm just going to go and cut my missing piece. Good job I read the... Okay, I have done what I need to do. So I have read through the instructions and it's more or less how I would have done it anyway. So we're going to join the bodice pieces together first, then we're going to make the ruffle piece into one big loop and gather it. The peplum again just needs joining at the sides, and the sleeves need joining at the sides. So there's quite a few steps I'm going to sew and pin and everything all together. So let's go over and do that now. Okay, so we're sewing short sides of these together first. And that's what it means by creating a loop. Because once they are sewn together, that's going to be one long loop. One thing I am going to do on this and on the bodice as well, which I haven't seen a reference to, is I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to make a notch at the center point because that's going to make my gathers more even. So I can make sure that that's matched up at the center. So this is the facing and this needs to be matched up. Some patterns you'll find that there is a notch at this point so that you can make sure that they're lined up, but the edge is exactly the same size, so it really shouldn't matter. There we go. So I have already done this and added a notch just there where it joins. And I've already added my notches there. Ooh. Now, I think there was just the one notch here, which I've already done. Yeah. So this is my bodice front and this is my bodice back. I am putting these right sides together. It's quite a busy pattern. I didn't look at the pattern. Also, I was limited on my fabric anyway. I didn't think it mattered about any kind of pattern matching or placement. I've just gone with it to make the most of the fabric that I had, which is a good job really, since I've only just had enough. I am way more about less waste than I am about the most perfect pattern placement. To be honest, if I was doing this and I wasn't doing a video, I don't think I would even, I might not even pin these because the fabric is quite stable. It's not going to slip anywhere. You just know that you're not going to end up sewing wrong bits together if you do this. So it is not going to do any harm. It's not adding that much time really. I have already added a notch on that top corner so I can match the ruffle up on there. Again, you might sometimes find that patterns have got notches at this point so that you can make sure you match them up evenly, but they should just be perfect rectangles, so it's a bit unnecessary really. And again, there's no way of knowing otherwise what way is the right way around, but since they are a perfect rectangle, and you can just look at the pattern, so just make sure you're careful with the pattern if you're doing this with something that's not really obvious, that you've got it the right way around when you sew it on, because that could be a mistake that you make. So these are going right sides together. So me doing it this way means that I am not standing up, sitting down, stand up, sitting down. I'm doing it. This to me just makes it, the whole process, so much quicker. I just do everything in batches. Once you understand how the pattern, like a pattern, comes together, I think you will agree with me too, once you've got a few items under your belt. So we've got sleeves, got the bodice, got the peplum, got the facing, the neck, and we've got the ruffle. And now we're going to sew all those together. There has been a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, or 1 centimetre allowed on the pattern. I will have to remember that because that's a bit smaller than normal. I have sewn all the pieces together. I did think I was filming it, but apparently I wasn't. Never mind. I've chain pieced them. So rather than at each point stopping and like moving on to the next bit, I've literally just gone one after the other as if I would do when I was quilting, and I find that makes life loads easier. So I'm going to cut all those bits, those joining threads now. And then I'm going to go straight to the overlocker. If you don't have an overlocker, then zigzag them. Just use the zigzag stitch on your machine. You might have an overlocker stitch. It's worth having a look in your instructions and having a look and seeing. It does take a while though, I find, if the overlocker stitch on your regular sewing machine. This one's got one, but it just takes ages. I've got a really basic Janome overlocker that does me well. Let's defluff it before I start. Okay. And again, I am going to chain stitch. You would have seen this on the actual sewing, but I forgot to record it. So to gather this, I'm going to do from the hem, I'm going to stick, I hate messing around with the tension. So I don't mess with the tension, but I'll just knock the stitch length all the way up to 5, which is the longest stitch length that mine does. And really close to the edge. In fact, I'm just going to pull that thread a bit longer. I'm just going to do one really long run. Gone all the way up to the next hem, and I'm going to leave a long length rather than use the scissors like I usually do. And then running right alongside it, I'm going to do another one. And now I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. Okay, we're starting to put it all together now. We need to attach the ruffle to the peplum. So I'm going to do that bit first. This was my top bit, and that was my notch. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn this the right way. Okay, that's my centre there. I'm going to find the centre of the ruffle on that little notch that I made, and I'm going to pin this first here. Then I'm going to pin it on the seam and match the seams up. And then the other centre. There. This is going to make sure that my ruffles are as even as possible. And then I'm just going to do the ruffles on each of those quarters one at a time. So I'm going to find the 2 loose threads on the outside and just together gently pull them. There are lots of different ways that you can gather. A lot of people use 3 rows, but I don't always feel the need. It's just in case one of those snap, and it's a bit annoying if that happens. To be fair, this fabric is not gathering as nicely as like viscose, for example. If it was just viscose on its own, because it's a blend, it's a bit heavier. Definitely not going to make you endure watching me do this all the way around, but I'll do this 1/4. Tiny bit more, then that's probably about the right amount. Now we just need to pull it through. I think this could have got away with being a bit more ruffly, like you could have made this longer. Right, so that side sits flat, and that side's got the ruffle. It's already looking adorable. I am going to go ahead and do the other sides. I'm looking at this pattern now. There are lots of different ways you could do this. Like, you wouldn't necessarily have to do a ruffle. You could do piping or something, and that would also look really good. There could be lots of different variations of that. We need to pin the facing to the bodice. So what we're going to do first is we're going to match up these shoulder seams. I'm actually going to do this one with the pins facing in this way, so it won't matter which way around I end up sewing. So I always do shoulder seams first. And then we will do this. I hope that this sits flat. That looks good. So that's not entirely flat there. I'm going to take that one out and just try and manipulate this fabric a bit better. That's better. Okay, so we'll sew that and then we'll press it round, and that will instantly look like it's nearly a finished garment. I won't be pinning the sleeves on at this point because there's too many pins then, and you do end up getting in a bit of a mess. I have now gathered and pinned all the way around, and now I'm going to sew it to the top of the peplum, and I'm going to do it not the full 3/8 seam allowance. I'm going to do it probably on top of one of the gather stitches. I've put my stitch length back down to 2.9. It has frayed quite a bit at this point, but I am not worried because I'm going to overlock this next. I am still going and just adjusting some of these gathers as I go along as well, just to make sure they're extra even. Now I am going to sew the face into the neckline. I always start at the back. I'm just feeling as I go along to make sure that there are no gathers and that it's laying flat. You will need to keep moving it around and pivot at the centre. I am going to inspect this before I take it over to the iron because I'm not 100% convinced. You know what, there aren't any tucks. Perfect. So I am going to trim this and add some notches. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. Right, so here, be super careful because you do not want to go through the stitching, but you do need to get as close as possible. I'm going to change my scissors. Something not quite as big. Oh, I do have a little gather there, a tiny bit. Okay, at least I can show you what I do. So can you see that little tuck there? I am going to just unpick that. There's like one thread that's the tuck. And then I'm going to probably unpick like 2 stitches either side of it. I should just be able to manipulate that slightly to straighten it out. There we go. See if it was never there. You know what, for the trimming, I am going to use the bigger scissors again. It's already quite a small seam allowance, so I'm not taking much off. I'm literally just neatening it up, to be honest. And there is a slight curve on the back, so let's cut some notches. Probably just going to do maybe 2 each side and 1 in the middle. This is just going to mean that it sits flatter. Like the fabric's got a bit more give then, and it's not going to gather and pucker. And maybe just a few here for good luck. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it over to the ironing board again, and I'm going to press the seam allowance to the facing, and then I'm going to add a top stitch. Well, it's an understitch, so it's an understitch, and I'm going to do it just on the facing, so it attaches this to this, and that means that it's going to sit really nicely. I press that now, and now I'm going to understitch it. I'm going to do it from the front because you can get a better idea of it, and if it needs sort of pulling into place a bit more. I'm just going to feel underneath to make sure that it's not turned back the other way. And I am going to just sort of gently pull it apart as I go. This is the centre point of the neckline. I'm going to be extra careful on this bit. Now, even without pressing, this should just, you will need to press it, but this should sit much more flat instantly. Perfect. Obviously, I am going to press this now. And then once I've pressed it, I'm going to match up these seams. And from the top, I'm just going to do a stitch in the ditch all the way across, and then that's going to stop this facing from flying upwards. Frustratingly, my microphone's disconnected at this point, so this is me talking over me talking, basically saying that what I should have done is gathered the peplum to the same width as the bodice before I put the ruffle on, because it made the gathering a real pain. After this, I'm going to take that over to the overlocker, and it's going to just finish that edge off beautifully. If you don't have an overlocker, then just trim all those loose edges and do a zigzag stitch around it. Again, I've had a few video fails here, but I still want to show you the process. I have inserted the sleeves by matching the right sides together and pushing the sleeve inside of the bodice. You need to match up the double notches to the double notches on the sleeve and the bodice. The double notches are the back and the single notches are the front. And then you use the seam of the bodice and the sleeve as your third guide as well. And then you need to just make sure it's pinned evenly all the way around. The sleeves are inserted and they have been pressed, and now I have hemmed the sleeves and I've hemmed the bottom hem as well, and I'm going to insert the elastic into the sleeves. The last thing you want to do is lose the end of the elastic, so I always add a safety pin to the end that I'm not going to thread through as well. Now I'm going to add a safety pin to the other side of the elastic, and that is the safety pin that I'm going to use to push it all the way through. Once you get to the end, you just need to undo those safety pins and make sure the elastic hasn't twisted. Join those two ends together so they overlap, and now we're going to take it back over to the sewing machine. What I tend to do is to just zigzag stitch them together. It's really hard to tell from this video, but it is a little bit fiddly, especially because this is 1/4 inch wide elastic, so it's quite small to work with. But just do a zigzag and make sure it's really secure. Go forward and backwards a few times. All that's left to do now is the other sleeve, and the hem's already done. It's good to go. Hello, so I have finished the top and I'm really pleased with it. I am going to probably wear it today, maybe a couple more times before I post it to its destination where it's going to be on display at the CHSI Stitches Show, which is just a big trade show for the craft, stitch and hobby industry. And I will obviously take you there with me and do some videos and things as I go along and hopefully show you it on display. I have got that wild gown that I want to make as well that will also be going on display. So that is my next job, and I will take you along on that journey as well. So I really love this fabric. As you know, I like sewing with quilting cotton, but this is somewhere in between quilting cotton and, well, it's a cotton and viscose blend. So it has got the same sort of weight you'd expect from quilting cotton, but it just feels slightly softer and it's a little bit more drapey. But then it does still have shape, not like if it was 100% viscose. So I'm very happy with it. I did read the instructions again after I'd done this ruffle, and I had misread them. So the instructions did say to have to gather the peplum and gather the ruffle so that it's the same width as the top part of the bodice, and then attach them together. Because what I did was I ruffled this first, and then I attached it, and then I tried to gather them both together, and it was really hard work. I mean, I managed it, but I made my life a lot harder than it needed to be. So I would obviously read the instructions properly and do it the right way next time I made it, and I probably will make it again. I would like to see it in a viscose because I think it can be sometimes a bit more flattering to just be a little bit more drapey. So I would like to make it in one of these potentially, or any new summery ones that I know that are going to be coming out soon. This is one of 4 William Morris prints from this collection that will be available, I think, sometime in July. I need to check that I've actually pre-ordered it, and I will obviously let you know when they do arrive if you want to recreate something similar yourself. And just to recap again, the pattern was Ethel, and it's from Tiana's Closet, and it was a freebie, which makes it even better. So yeah, really love this pattern. Dead simple. It'd be a really good like starter one if you're new to dressmaking as well. And I hope I've made it look easy as it's gone along. If you would like more videos about how I make dresses and lots of other different crafts and sewing, then please make sure you subscribe, and thank you for watching.